Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to once again talk about the Nintendo Switch 2, but in a slightly different way. My past Nintendo Switch 2 videos sort of discussed the possibility of it coming out next year. All assumptions are that it'll come out in 2024, at least on my part, but for this video, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 as if it was not coming out next year. I've seen comments here and there on my videos about how some people don't believe that the Nintendo Switch 2 will come out next year or even happen in general, so I kind of wanted to delve into that subject with this video. I've seen people talk about how they don't want a Switch 2 to come out anytime soon. Nintendo doesn't need one. The Switch is doing phenomenally well. This is a common argument that I see on the internet, and while there are parts of it that make a good point, I think there's a lot missed in the idea. Again, if you're on the younger side and maybe you haven't experienced console generation before, this is a normal thing in gaming. This is a normal thing in the industry. It's normal to move on, whether you're in video games or whether you're an iPhone, your Apple or whatever. It's normal to move on to a successor system, no matter what. Nintendo is not going to stick with the Switch forever. It's not going to stay their primary mainline console forever. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be forgotten. It does not mean that it's going to be discontinued or Nintendo is going to stop support of it. No. If anything, just like in the past, there will be overlap with the next generation system. The Switch will still exist. It will still coexist with the next generation system. Just because Nintendo releases a next generation system doesn't mean that they will not support the Switch anymore. They will still continue to support it for a few more years after the next gen comes out. So anyone who still has a Switch will still reap the benefits of that support, just like how it was in previous generations. So first and foremost, I do want to clarify that I do in fact believe that we will see the next generation Nintendo console come out next year. Whether or not it's called the Nintendo Switch 2 is up for debate. It could be called Nintendo Switch 2, it may be called Nintendo Switch Pro. I personally don't think it'll be some kind of Pro model. I do think it's going to be a true next generation successor. So it could be called Switch 2, it could be called anything, Super Switch or Nintendo Focus, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be called something, and I do believe it's going to come out next year. So I just wanted to get that out of the way so we can just quickly jump right into the subject at hand. So firstly, let's talk about what would happen if Nintendo Switch 2 did not come out next year. If Nintendo did not come out with a next-gen system next year in 2024, what would happen? Well, firstly, I think Nintendo would be fine. I think they would be completely okay if we did not see a Nintendo Switch 2 next year. If they did not release anything, they would be fine. The Switch is still relevant, it's still successful, and it's still selling like hotcakes right now. It's still selling like crazy. So when you think about it, if Nintendo didn't come out with any system, they're good. They can live off the Switch. It's completely fine. But that being said, just because the Switch is still selling well doesn't mean that they're selling as much as they used to. And this leads me to another point that I want to make in this video. When you look at the year-over-year sales of the Switch, you're going to see that they are in steady decline. Now, is the decline steep? Not really. It's not a steep decline. So as a positive for Nintendo, that's a good thing. It's not a steep decline, it's just a steady decline throughout the years. 2021 was the peak of the sales for the Switch. That was the year that had the most Switch sales. So that was the peak. And then right after 2021, we started to see that dip. Each year after that was a slight dip. We are seeing that continually, and it's very unlikely that Nintendo will be able to reverse that dip. If they came out with a price drop for the system, that may boost Switch sales just a little bit, but I still don't think it's enough to stave off the continual drop in year-over-year sales. I don't think it'll be enough. On top of that, what else could they do to increase and drive sales if there is no Nintendo Switch 2 next year? Well, obviously games. They'll keep coming out with games, but that brings me to another issue, at least from what we're seeing right now, is that most of the games that are coming out from Nintendo next year, most of the big ones at least, are mainly ports and remasters, which is those are what mainly comprise the 2024 game lineup from Nintendo. And as far as big AAA releases from Nintendo or even third parties, we're starting to see significantly less of those. We don't have a 3D Mario game lined up for the original Switch next year. We don't have Metroid Prime 4 is still MIA, still not around. So that's what we're seeing. We're seeing mainly ports and remasters from Nintendo. We're not seeing any of the big heavy hitter stuff. We're not seeing those, not even from third parties. It's dwindling. So unless Nintendo comes out with some stuff, with some last minute announcements for next year, it's pretty likely that we're going to mainly see ports and remasters aside from so far the only announced original game for 2024, which is Princess Peach Showtime. So that's the only one, and even then, it's not really it's not something that I would consider a heavy hitter. But I understand that it still looks like a really good game, and I can't wait to pick it up. It still looks really fun, so I'm not trying to downplay the significance of that game. I'm just saying it is not a mainline 3D Mario game. It's not a Zelda game. It's not Animal Crossing. It's not a game that I think would sell a lot of systems, but it's going to sell enough. It's going to sell to those who want to play it, and it looks like a fun game, so at least there's that. But what else could happen? If Nintendo were to skip next year as a year they would release next gen, what else would happen to them? Well, unfortunately, I do think that despite the fact that Nintendo would be fine, the Switch is still relevant, there would nonetheless be a dip in brand recognition. Like the brand, Nintendo themselves, while it is held in high regard right now, we have seen points in the past where Nintendo dipped in relevancy during the Wii U era, during the beginning of the 3DS era when the 3DS wasn't doing too well. Nintendo dropped in brand recognition, and this could happen again. This could easily happen again. Right now, it's easy to feel like something is like Nintendo is invincible. Maybe Nintendo may feel that way too, but when you look at the past, it's pretty easy to see. It's pretty clear. If Nintendo isn't careful with how they approach this next system, then potentially their brand recognition could drop once again. It could happen. It's a realistic possibility, despite the fact that personally I think it's a very low chance. It has a very low chance of happening, but I still think that it is worth bringing up because it could happen. It could happen again. Popularity for the hardware, for the Switch, relevancy for the Switch will also continue to decrease. That's already been happening over the last few years. It's going to continue to happen. And in regards to brand recognition, here's the thing. The Super Mario Bros. Movie came out this year and it was a gigantic success. It brought a lot of recognition to the brand of Nintendo and to the Switch. It brought a lot of attention, and that's a good thing. It was good attention. But that's just one movie, and that came out earlier this year. When's the next movie coming out, right? So if Nintendo movies were more frequent, it would help avoid that potential of brand recognition decreasing or sales decreasing. Again, I'm of the opinion that Switch sales would still continually decrease year over year, but Nintendo could help reduce that drop by having other ways of exposing their brand and the Switch brand to the consumer, and again, through the movies. But once again, we only got the Mario movie earlier this year. There's no word for when the sequel is going to come out. Definitely not next year. The Zelda movie, that is not happening for the next few years. So right now, for the time being, as of late 2023, early 2024, we're not going to see a Nintendo-related movie anytime soon. So you can cross that off. Now, lastly, before I end the video, I do want to talk about the last thing that I believe Nintendo would be missing out on. If Nintendo were to avoid releasing the Nintendo Switch 2 next year, I believe there could be a missed opportunity to capitalize off of the Switch's success. Think about it. The Switch is a gigantic success. From the beginning up until this point, it's been a huge success. At this point, it has sold well over 130 million in the world, globally. It's doing phenomenally. However, again, it has been decreasing with each year. Sales have been decreasing with each year. So, right now, it would probably be a prime opportunity for Nintendo to consider releasing a next generation system while the Switch is still popular. it's still relevant, especially if this supposed Switch 2, or whatever it's going to be called, if it's another hybrid device, it's following in the Switch's footsteps. This is a great opportunity for them to capitalize off of the Switch itself, to capitalize off the fact that it is a popular concept. Will this concept die down in popularity, the idea of a hybrid console? It's unlikely, at least for the time being, but if Nintendo continues to wait and wait and wait and wait, they're gonna miss that window of opportunity for capitalizing on this momentum that the Switch has. And that's the word that I want to use here, momentum. If Nintendo loses momentum, which the Switch is slowly losing momentum with each year, they're going to miss this prime opportunity to capitalize off of it. Right now, they're as popular as ever, but if they continue to wait and wait and wait and wait, they're going to slip further and further into irrelevancy. So we don't want that to happen. We want Nintendo to capitalize off their current popularity, and a good way to do that is to release a true next-gen system next year in 2024. But anyways, guys, that is just my opinion. That is just one man's opinion. I want to hear your opinion, so please let me know. What do you think? Do you think a Switch 2 will come out next year, or do you think it's not? Or do you prefer that they don't do it? Like, let me know in the comments below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.